All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're taking on one of the biggest, most deeply ingrained beliefs in personal finance, the idea that you have to buy a house to be successful and build wealth. We're going to challenge that with a pretty amazing real-life story and some simple math that might just change the way you think about your entire financial future. Does that line hit close to home? For millions of people, especially across the subcontinent, this isn't just friendly advice, it's practically a command. There's this huge pressure from family and society to own property. It's held up as the number one goal in life, the ultimate proof that you've finally made it. And that's really the big question, isn't it? If we strip away all the emotion, all the tradition, does the math actually back this up? Is sinking every penny you have into one single property really the smartest way to secure your future? Or is there another way, a better way? So, this obsession with owning a home, it didn't just appear out of thin air. It's built on generations of tradition. I mean, for our parents and grandparents, real estate was probably the safest and most reliable investment they could make. But things are different now. The financial world has completely changed. The problem is, this decision is so often driven by these old cultural beliefs instead of a solid personal financial plan. It becomes an emotional decision, like a rite of passage. But making one of the biggest financial moves of your life based on feelings, well, that can have some serious consequences. So let's look at someone who actually went against the grain. And that brings us to Ammar Siddiqui. He's a guy who is facing all of that same cultural pressure, but he decided to do something totally different. He bet on a new strategy, and his story is this incredible case study in what can happen when you defy convention. Okay, so let's just quickly run through his timeline. Back in 2019, he had 7 million rupees saved up and he was at a crossroads. He made the huge call to rent and invest instead of buying. Then in 2020, he put all of that money into one specific investment. Fast forward to 2025, and the results are just mind-blowing. So look, these were the two options on the table for him. Option A, buy a house for about 16 million rupees. That meant taking on a massive loan and having all his money tied up in one single asset he couldn't easily sell. Or option B, use the cash he already had, stand up to all that pressure, and put his money to work. He chose option B. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. How did that bet actually turn out? What did he do with those 7 million rupees that was so much more powerful than just buying a house? Let's get into the numbers. He invested in something called a REIT. Now, what in the world is a REIT? Think of it this way. It's like buying a tiny slice of a huge commercial property. In his case, he didn't buy an apartment. He basically became a part owner of a major shopping mall. That meant he got a cut of all the rent paid by the big stores and offices in that mall. So here we go. The starting line, 7 million rupees. That was his entire life savings at the time, and he put it all in. I mean, talk about a bold move. And here's the first incredible number. In just 6 years, the dividends alone, his share of the mall's rental income came out to 6.5 million rupees. He almost got his entire initial investment back just from passive income. That's money he earned while he was sleeping. But wait, it gets better. This is the real kicker. That initial 7 million rupee investment, today, it's worth a staggering 18 million rupees. So on top of all that cash flow he was getting, his original investment more than doubled in value. And this is the most important part. That passive income, the money his investment makes for him every year, it now pays for his family's life. It covers their rent, their bills, even their groceries. That rent he was told was wasted money is now being paid for by his own money machine. Now, Ammar's story is incredible, but it's not some kind of financial magic trick. It's actually based on a really simple principle that anyone can understand. So let's look at the actual math behind why this works so well. It all comes down to a concept called yield. If you own a house and rent it out in a place like Pakistan, your annual return, or your rental yield, is pretty low, usually around 3 to 5%. But a good investment like a high dividend stock or a REIT can give you a dividend yield of 10% or even more. It's simply about putting your money where it will work the hardest for you. Let's just put some numbers on that to make it super clear. Imagine you have a 10 million rupee asset. If it's a house, you might get about 360,000 rupees a year in rent from it.
But if you put that same 10 million into a high-yield investment, you could be looking at 1 million rupees a year. That huge difference in cash flow is the engine that drives this whole strategy.
So, the strategy is actually pretty simple. Step 1, put your money where it earns the highest return. Step 2, use a small piece of those earnings to pay your rent. And step 3, this is the most important part. You reinvest everything that's left over. That's how you unleash the power of compounding and build real sustainable wealth.
But this is about more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. This is a complete shift in how you think. It really challenges the very definition of what a home is and what stability actually looks like. Let's start by busting the biggest myth of all, that paying rent is throwing money away. It's just not true. When your investments are paying your rent, your own capital is free to grow and compound. Essentially, your money is paying for your housing while it's also making you richer. And what about the idea that renting is unstable? Think about it. What's more stable, being locked into a 30-year mortgage or having the financial freedom to move wherever you want, whenever you want? The ability to chase a better job or find a better school for your kids without being tied down to a physical building, that's the ultimate security. It's what Amar calls living an unchained life.
And at the end of the day, it really comes down to this philosophy. What is a home? Is it the bricks and mortar? Or is it the life you build inside those walls? The argument here is that we should focus more on the relationships, on the peace and the smiles, which can happen anywhere, rather than being so obsessed with owning the building itself.
And that's the thought we want to leave you with. For so many people, buying a house is the first major decision they make. And that one decision ends up dictating almost everything else: where they work, where their kids go to school, what opportunities they can and can't pursue for decades. But does it have to be that way? By choosing to invest first, you might just be buying yourself the freedom to make many more great decisions down the road.